Hello, this is Raymond Broady, and I'd like to take you on a tour of one of my galleries, a tour or an explanation of why I did the various paintings in this particular gallery. This gallery being the gallery I call the Rural South. Another painting in that series is called Waterfall, and it was one of the few paintings that I just made up. It's not painted from a particular scene. It was just something that I thought up, and I was practicing doing painting water, and I was practicing painting sky, and I was practicing painting, and the result was a painting called Waterfall. The next painting is one of the, I think at the time, or maybe even now, one of the better watercolors that I have done. And I say it's a good watercolor in its technique and watercolor techniques. Like the sky is probably one of the better skies that you can do in watercolors. And the perspective and the colors, and it just turned out to be a very good watercolor. And it's of a scene in Port Gibson, Mississippi. And Port Gibson was a city that when Sherman went through the South, burning everything in his path, he said that Port Gibson was too pretty to burn, so he let it stand. And this was the courthouse, the Port Gibson courthouse, that Sherman let stand because the whole city was too pretty to burn. Again, it's one of what I would consider one of my better watercolors. Another painting in that scene is called House with Clotheslines. And again, it goes back to my commentary about my fascination with painting clothes hanging on the line, and the big sky, the colorful sky with a lot of action. That's the House with the Clothesline. Another painting in that series is another courthouse, another Mississippi courthouse. It's the Vicksburg courthouse. And the courthouse can be seen far in the distance with a water fountain in the foreground. Again, the water fountain had to do with my fascination with water and how do you paint water, because even though we see rain when it falls, but it's very difficult to paint rain because rain, running water, dripping water, water in a fountain really doesn't have a color. In our minds, we think that it's white, but of course it's not white. In the movies, in order to show rain, they would often use milk to show the water, but in painting, water really isn't white, and it's very difficult to depict water. So for about a year, I painted and practiced and studied how to show water in a painting, and the water in the fountain in the Vicksburg courthouse painting has to do with me practicing and trying to learn how to depict water, running water, rain-type water, in a painting. There are three other paintings in that series. I think one of them is called The Rodney House, one of them is called Rodney Store, and one of them is called House on the Plains or House on the Prairie. And these three buildings were done, they're actually buildings that exist in an abandoned town. There was a little town in Mississippi about a mile from the Mississippi River, and today there may be only 6 or 7 buildings in that town. And I believe of the 6 buildings, maybe 3 of them are occupied, but the buildings that I've painted in the Rodney Store and the Rodney House and the House on the Plains are buildings in that abandoned, you could almost call it a ghost town, near the Mississippi in a little town called Rodney, Mississippi. Those are the paintings in that series, and This series, like many of the series, the galleries that I've painted, were from a certain era and from a certain geographical area. And most of these were done during a couple of trips that I took in Mississippi. To learn more about my paintings, visit my website at www.raybroady.com.